Back in the distant mists of time, otherwise known as October 2022, I bought a Gibson Les Paul in, let's say, project condition. I fully expected to have it fixed up and completed within 2 to 3 weeks, but for various reasons, it ended up taking almost 3 months, for which my sincere apologies. And if it's any consolation, it's been torture for me to not have this thing finished. You can check out part 1 in full at the link in my description, and it's my great pleasure to bring you today, finally, part 2 of my Les Paul rescue. A quick recap. The Les Paul was missing its pickups, all of its wiring, and a couple of pieces of hardware, but its biggest issue by far was the damage to its finish. Fortunately, the top proved to be surprisingly easy fix, thanks to a combination of damage that looked worse than it actually was, and my decision to give it what I call a sympathetic restoration, rather than a complete makeover. The back, however, was going to prove a bigger challenge. I hasten to add that a pro luthier or someone with lots of refinishing experience would definitely have done a better job than me. This isn't an instructional video, and I don't recommend the approach I took, which was to wick some black nitrocellulose lacquer into the scratches, then after it had cured, to flat sand it and polish it back up. You'll see that the nitro did significantly help, but ultimately was too thin to fully fill the deeper scratches. And here you'll see where I oversanded to try to level out the scratches and went through the finish, which was thinner than I expected to find on a 2001 USA Gibson. If this was someone else's guitar, I obviously would have refilled the scratches, shot some black over it and sanded it all back. But this is my guitar, and I decided to leave it as is, because the message was hidden enough, and at this point I really didn't want to get into spraying. With the back of the guitar, the most important thing to me was to get rid of the sinister message its previous owner had gouged into it. But I don't mind a patch of bare wood. To me, that's evidence of what I've done with this guitar. If I ever move it on, its next owner should have no trouble at all fixing that up if they choose to. With the repairs done, it's on to the rebuild. First was to address the fretboard. It's a piece of light-colored rosewood, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I prefer my rosewood a bit darker. Monty's Guitars sent me this Montypresso Relic wax, which is really nice stuff and even contains beeswax harvested from beehives in London. It's really easy to use. All you do is clean your fretboard down with lighter fluid, then apply a generous layer of wax and leave it for a few hours to soak into the wood fibers. You can leave it for as long as you want and apply it multiple times because there's nothing in it that's going to harm the wood. I'll be honest that I was skeptical about how well this would work, but hopefully you can see it's made the fretboard considerably darker after only 3 or 4 hours. This is great for now, but next time I change the strings I might try another coat on overnight, just to see what happens. For the pickups, I've chosen a set of Seymour Duncan Pearly gates with exposed coils, which Rossetti Distribution have supplied me with for a deep discount. I've had this set in another Les Paul that I've reviewed on this channel, and they're just great. They're articulate and detailed, and they have a path-like chime in the top end, but they're also focused and slightly compressed, and they're well potted so they work great with more generous gain staging. And because the guitar needed a ground-up rewire, SixStringSupplies have very generously sent me this Jimmy Page wiring kit. It comes with a jack socket, and SixStringSupplies can also supply the toggle switch. And most importantly, all the pots are push-pull for coil splitting, series, parallel, and out of phase, with a total of 21 possible combinations. It's also a solderless kit, which is just fantastic because I'm useless with a soldering iron, but I also like to try out different pickups. I'm going to make another video demonstrating the full potential of this Page kit and these pickups, so be sure to look out for that one coming real soon. With the guitar rewired, it's time to give it a quick polish and string it up. Monty's also sent me a tin of their instrument food, which is a clear wax that you can use to condition and shine up your guitar, and it's safe on most, if not all, finishes. Again, you just wipe it on and buff it up, and your guitar looks great. I'm very grateful to these suppliers for helping me out and making the video possible. If you want to help me out and make future videos possible, I'd be super grateful if you would check out my Patreon, which I'll link to in my description. And thanks, of course, to my existing patrons. I had a set of Ernie Ball skinny top heavy bottom strings lying around, so that's what I put on to test it. But once I was satisfied, I put on a set of Ernie Ball baritones, 72 to 13. Because this guitar is going to be tuned to drop A. And finally, as fun as that coffin-shaped case was, Les Pauls need a Les Paul case. I bought this one because it was cheap and I liked the green tweed and brown leather combination. It's not the best, but it's almost as good as the Gibson branded cases at 4 times the price, so that was an easy decision. And here it is. Again, I'm gonna make a separate video demoing its sounds real soon so I can really do justice to the pickups and all the switching options. For now though, just take in the glory, before and after. I'm quite proud of it, if I say so myself. To be clear, I'm not presenting this as a tutorial. I don't think my method is the best way of fixing up a guitar, and if you've got a guitar you want fixing up, I'd recommend you take it to a professional. And if you do want to do it yourself, then don't risk anything you can't afford to replace. If you are an expert at this, then please feel free to critique anything I've done in the comments, and I'd love to hear your own stories about guitars you've rescued. I was lucky enough to come across this Gibson Les Paul Standard for a ridiculously small amount of money because it looked in far worse condition than it actually was. And I've been even luckier to partner up with a few great brands to make the restoration possible. So thank you to SixStringSupplies, thank you to Rossetti and Seymour Duncan, and thank you to Monty's Guitars for supplying their products. And thanks, as always, to you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.